Hi, and welcome to FireTech Talk. I'm your host, Noah. Today we're sitting down with Brian Brownell from the FED Learning Center to talk about all things fire alarms. For those of you who aren't familiar with Brian, he has 17 years experience in the industry, and we are so excited to get to pick his brain. Brian, thank you so much for joining us virtually today. How are you?
I'm great, Noah. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. For those of us at home, and maybe people who just don't know as much about the industry, can you run us through the basic components of a fire alarm system?
Sure. That's a great question, Noah. So first you have the FACU. This is known as the Fire Alarm Control Unit, or as we just say in the industry, the fire panel. There's two different power sources required. You have AC, which is usually done by an electrician, and then you need the backup batteries in case the AC power fails. You have input devices, such as a smoke detector, which is an automatic initiating device, because no interaction is required by a person. And also, you'll have pull stations, which is a manual initiating device, because it requires a manual action by a person. And depending on the facility, there'll be other devices as well. Finally, horns and strobes are the outputs. These will notify the occupants of the building there is a fire and they need to leave the facility immediately. So these are just some of the basics. However, larger buildings, they'll have more devices, but the concept stays the same.
Definitely. That's awesome. So kind of moving forward and leading off that a little bit, whenever you have a facility and say there's a storm or a hurricane or, whatever natural disaster and the power is cut to the building, do these fire alarm systems still stay online or are they affected by that outage?
Yes, the system is provided a backup system consisting of the batteries. And by code, they are to last 24 hours in standby time. And this means there's no alarms and 5 minutes in alarm, meaning all the horn strobes are activated. And we have to do battery calculations. These are completed to make sure the correct amperage of the batteries are enough to support the 24-hour standby and the 5-minute in alarm as per NFPA 72 code.
Gotcha. So kind of going down that same path, are there different types of fire alarm systems in today's modern buildings? I know, from looking in any city, there's a number of different types of styles and sizes of buildings. Is it one size fits all for fire alarms, or is it a little bit more complex than that?
For the most part, there's two different types in today's buildings. The first is known as a conventional panel. This panel can be limited to the amount of devices used on the system. Say you have a smaller building and expansion is minimal, this would be a great option. It also just has LEDs to indicate the alarm or trouble conditions. Another panel is the addressable. It has many more options, including an option of having an English display readout, which can provide information that is more detailed, like the location of the device that has been activated. These systems can be expanded as your customer grows without incurring great costs. However, it's always best to understand your customer's future plans if possible to help in your decision of the panel you sell them.
So, having been in this industry for a little bit of time now, gone through a million different buildings, I feel like I've noticed there are different kinds of pull stations. Can you kind of elaborate on that and talk about what the different functions are?
Well, there's two different pull stations that are out there. One will be a single action, and what that entails is that when they pull the pull station, one pull, that will give you a general alarm. Then you have dual action pull stations, and that requires 2 steps. You have to push in the actuator and pull it down. All this does is give it a little bit more of security. You'll see dual action pull stations in public buildings, school facilities, high-risk buildings.
Awesome. That's nice to know. Well, Brian, unfortunately, it looks like we've run out of time today, but thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and pick this up in part 2. For you guys watching at home, be sure to like and subscribe to the Brooks YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.